Hi, I'm Shelly. I was very popular at school and the cheer captain on top of that. One day, my parents told me that my cousin was going to come stay with us. The last time we had seen each other was in childhood. I remember that she was constantly throwing temper tantrums, but Sophia had been a child back then and had probably changed since. A little spoiler, I couldn't have been more wrong. When she arrived, I tried to act friendly. My parents decided Sophia would stay in my room, and I prepared a place for her to sleep in advance. When Sophia saw the mattress, she grimaced and asked me if she could take the bed. I didn't care much, so I agreed. Then she took my things off the shelf and put her own stuff there. But her insolence did not stop there. In the morning, I went to take a shower, and when I came back, I couldn't believe my eyes. Sophia was wearing my makeup. She had used the most expensive cosmetics, too. I'd spent a very long time saving up for them. Sophia began to annoy me, but I tried to stay calm and politely asked her to put the cosmetics back in their place. It was my boyfriend Mark's birthday that day. He was throwing a pool party. I had been really looking forward to it. I'd bought a gift and baked a birthday cake in advance. I was in a great mood, and even Sophia couldn't ruin it. Or at least that's what I thought, until something happened. Sophia saw me getting ready and asked me where I was going. I told her that I was going to my boyfriend's birthday party, and I wish I'd kept quiet. She asked to come with me. Of course I didn't want to take her with me. I had almost figured out how to refuse when my mom walked into our room. Of course you can go with Shelly. Have fun, girls. I groaned inwardly. I didn't want to argue with my mom, so I agreed. Sophia was delighted and immediately asked to borrow some of my things. She reached into my closet and took out a miniskirt and a top. Can I take these? I looked at her and at my clothes, confused. Did she seriously think my clothes were big enough for her? Don't you think that our sizes are a little different? Nonsense. I'll agree in this. I don't know why she even bothered asking for my permission because she didn't seem to need it. She put on the top and was jumping around the room, trying to squeeze into my skirt. She looked so ridiculous that I almost burst out laughing. The top and skirt were practically busting at the seams. We got ready. I took the gift and went to the kitchen to get the cake. I opened the refrigerator and froze with my mouth open. Someone had eaten half of it. I almost burst into tears because I had put a lot of effort into cooking it. I immediately called my mom and blew up on her. I told you not to touch the cake. It was for Mark's birthday. Mom assured me that neither she nor Dad had touched it. She was definitely not lying, and I realized something. If my parents hadn't eaten it, then the only one could have done it. Well, yeah, I ate it. I got hungry at night and ate a couple of pieces. I was speechless. Sophia didn't feel guilty at all, and it infuriated me. But when I started scolding her, to my surprise, Mom took her side. Shelly, quit it. You can't even share a piece of cake with your cousin. She gave me money and told me to buy a cake at the store. I was in a terrible mood, but Sophia managed to make things even worse. She didn't stop talking for a second as we walked. A lot of people had come to the party. Everyone was telling Mark how lucky he was to be dating me. We were having fun and everything was going great, but Sophia kept being annoying. She wouldn't leave me alone and wanted to be the center of attention. At some point, everyone started diving into the pool. I used to be on the swimming team, and my friends asked me to show them a cool trick. I stood on the springboard, jumped, twisted in the air, and landed beautifully. Everyone whistled and applauded loudly. Then Sophia suddenly declared that she could do the same thing. Before we knew it, she was diving into the pool. It was truly something. Everyone who was standing nearby was doused with water. The girl screamed loudly. The water hit the barbecue and the steaks that were being cooked, and the fire went out. I felt terribly embarrassed, while Sophia seemed absolutely fine. She came out of the pool and looked around, seeming satisfied. I told you! Did you see how cool I was? Everyone was sick and tired of her antics, and Mark got an idea. He asked his friend Ethan to talk to Sophia and distract her. At first, Ethan refused, but Mark managed to convince him. The funniest thing was that Ethan succeeded. Sophia started bothering him, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. At the end of the evening, Mark asked me to come with him to the yard. We sat on the swings. We were hidden by the bushes, so no one could see us. We were finally alone. Mark leaned toward me and was about to kiss me. Oh, there you are. Damn, I had it up to here with her. Sophia had seen us leave and followed us. She had even dragged poor Ethan along with her. I was about to shout at her when Mark smoothed things over. He said it was getting late and it was time to end the party. He called me in the morning the next day and suggested something interesting. A basketball court had been built in this area. People often came there to play. Mark suggested I join his team. Sophia was still asleep, and I tried to pack quietly. I wanted to sneak out of the house unnoticed, but it didn't work out. Sophia woke up and, of course, followed me. The game was going great as usual. A lot of people came to watch. My unbearable cousin kept getting in the way. She clumsily jumped on the other players and pushed them to get the ball. Mark was the captain of our team and eventually snapped. He asked Ethan to distract Sophia again so that everyone else could have a nice time. Ethan kept refusing, but in the end, he felt sorry for the players and distracted Sophia with a conversation. After she left the court, playing became much easier. Our team soon took the lead. I sat on Mark's shoulders and scored the decisive goal. We were celebrating the victory when suddenly noticed that Sophia was whining at Ethan. "I want to do that too." She made him sit down and got on his shoulders. We tried to stop her, but it was too late. Ethan tried to get up, lost his balance, and they fell. Ethan immediately grimaced and groaned. His neck hurt, so Mark and I brought him to the doctor. Sophia came with us. Just imagine. She didn't feel guilty. On the contrary, she said that Ethan should work out more since he couldn't even lift a girl. I couldn't help but say, "This is all your fault. It's not that Ethan needs to work out, you just need to lose weight." Sophia snorted, hurt, turned away, and didn't say anything else. Luckily, Ethan had just sprained his neck a little. I came home feeling angry at Sophia. I came up to my mom and asked her quietly when Sophia would leave. I was hoping that my cousin would be staying with us for a short time, but I was in for some unpleasant news. Just imagine, Sophia was going to live with us for a whole month, and my parents had also talked to my principal so that she could go to the same school as me. What a nightmare. I couldn't stand it. Please try to make friends with her. She got in some serious trouble, so her parents sent her here for a while. Sophia was usually the source of the trouble, but trying to prove it to my mother was useless. At school, my worst fears came true. My cousin followed me everywhere and demanded that I show her everything. She even sat next to me in the cafeteria. Within 5 minutes, all my friends hated her. She was picking on everyone, criticizing them, and constantly putting her foot in her mouth. When Sophia finished eating and went to get a second serving, my friends asked me to get rid of her. I would love to, but I don't know how. A classmate of mine was walking by her table. I immediately got an idea. I grabbed her by the arm and sat her down on Sophia's chair. When my cousin came back, there was nowhere for her to sit. We hoped she would move, but that didn't happen. She took a chair from the next table, pulled it up to ours, and sat between Mark and me. I was grinding my teeth with anger. Everyone was annoyed, but Sophia didn't seem to notice it. However, at the end of the day, someone finally put her in her place. The cheerleading team had an important performance coming up, so we were busy preparing for it. After classes, our team came to the gym. The girls and I talked and decided that we needed new costumes. Mine was supposed to stand out, and I was planning on ordering a custom costume. When we started practicing, Sophia came into the gym. She tried to repeat after us, but only got in the way again. She messed up our performance and even tried to lecture us. In the end, my friends couldn't stand it. "You can't be in the gym while we're practicing." "That's right, get lost." For the first time, Sophia didn't know what to say. She left, and we calmly finished practicing. When I got home, Sophia pounced on me. "Everyone hates me because I'm fat." I tried to explain to her that her figure had nothing to do with it. She was just being too brazen. But Sophia didn't want to hear it, and spent the whole evening pointedly watching the TV. When my mom came home from work, I asked her for money for the new costume, but I was in for an unpleasant surprise. Recently, my parents had paid off a loan, and they barely had enough money to last us for the rest of the month. We don't have any extra money, and Sophia's visiting us as well. Her family is also struggling financially now, and they didn't give her any pocket money. That really upset me. How was I supposed to sew a costume now? The next day, I complained to Mark, and he offered to lend me money. I couldn't accept that and refused. Then he came up with another idea. There was a place in our city where singers and dancers performed in the evenings. "You're a great dancer. You could try to earn extra money by performing." It was a good idea, and after classes, Mark, Ethan, and I went there. Have you guessed who tagged along yet? Right, it was Sophia again. She was very persistent. When I started dancing, she stood next to me and tried to repeat after me. It was distracting and I couldn't focus. Then she asked Ethan to dance with her. He suddenly snapped and told her everything he thought of her. Sophia turned red and snapped back. She stayed with us for a while longer, then turned around and left. Finally. After she left, things started working out and I earned some money. The success inspired me and I came there to perform several more times. As a result, I earned a decent amount of money. I added my pocket money to it and ordered the costume. A couple of days later, I picked it up at the tailor shop and went home satisfied. The costume turned out to be very beautiful. I was really looking forward to performing in it. When I got home, I immediately realized that something had happened. My mom looked frustrated. She said that the money she and Dad had been saving up was gone. That was when she noticed the costume in my hands and frowned. "Shelly, did you take the money to buy a costume?" I was so indignant. How could my mom suspect me of something like that? I said that I earned the money for the costume myself, but she didn't believe me. Then, Dad broke in and we had a fight. At some point, Sophia returned home. She heard that my parents were fighting and immediately tried to calm my parents down. Shelly, how could you do that? That was the last straw for me, and the fight turned into a real scandal. As a result, my parents took away my pocket money for several months. It was terribly unfair, and I burst into tears. Our team was supposed to perform the next day. I had been looking forward to it for a really long time, but now I wasn't enthusiastic at all. I felt awful, but tried to perform well for the sake of my friends. We nailed it. At the end, I performed a difficult trick, and the audience was delighted. Then Sophia ran out on stage. Would she ever calm down? I noticed that she was wearing new clothes that looked a lot like my costume. When had she bought it? I watched you practice and learned how to do it as well. Let me show you. Sophia wanted to repeat my trick. I shouted that it could be dangerous without proper practice, but she just waved me off. She jumped up, tried to do a somersault, and fell. It was expected, so I wasn't even surprised. I wanted to laugh, but Sophia suddenly started screaming that her leg hurt. We called a doctor. It turned out that she had managed to land so badly that she got a fracture. Sophia was brought to a hospital, and I went with her. Soon my terrified parents joined in. While Sophia was being put in a cast, I was holding her things. At some point, her phone started ringing. It was a call from a fitness club. I answered, and you wouldn't believe what I found out. It turned out that my cousin had bought a subscription to a weight loss program. I immediately began to wonder where she got the money for it as well as the new clothes. I turned on the speakerphone and my parents heard our conversation. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. After Sophia was discharged, my parents asked her directly if she had taken our money. Naturally, Sophia denied everything, and then she clutched at her leg and pretended to be in a lot of pain. After a while, her parents arrived. They had decided to take Sophia home because of her fracture. I was over the moon, but then I accidentally overheard a conversation between my mother and my aunt. My aunt started crying and confessed something. It turned out that it hadn't been the first time Sophia had stolen something. She often took things from her classmates or neighbors without asking. She had recently gotten into big trouble because of it, and that was why Sophia's parents had sent her to another city. After that talk, Mom apologized to me for her accusations. Shelly, I'm sorry. Your father and I were wrong. You're a very smart girl. The best daughter in the world. We made up. Ethan and Mark came over in the evening. Sophia and her parents were just about to leave. We rejoiced and saw them off together. Finally, I told Sophia it wasn't her looks that she should change. Everybody hates you for your personality, not your looks. Sophia snapped at me and said that she was amazing. Yeah, it seems like some people are lost causes, and my cousin is one of them.
Sayonara, losers. Those were my mom's last words. I don't remember it very clearly, but it was the only memory I had of her. I was only a toddler back then, so everything is fuzzy now. But I clearly remember her handing me off to Nana. I was bawling my eyes out. I was screaming, as toddlers often did. Nana was flustered. She had to hold me, keep me from thrashing out, and also try to talk sense into her rebellious daughter who was about to abandon her grandchild. All while dodging and weaving through the numerous toys that I'd strewn all over the floor in my tantrum. Nana ran after Mom while carrying me. You can't just run away from your responsibilities, Ava. You can't just leave Alice like this. Mom cackled and looked back at us. Watch me. She walked over to her boyfriend's car, got in the passenger seat, and said her famous last words to me. And that was it. Mom, her boyfriend, and their friends drove off into the sunset, never to return. I had nowhere else to go. No other family, so my grandmother took me in. She tried for ages to look for my dad, but Mom never told her who it was. School was a nightmare. That was the beginning of the oops, sorry saga. The kids at school would do something bad to me, and after they had their laughs, they'd say, oops, sorry. All right, we'll stop after you do this one thing. I'll do it. What is it? Kim grinned at me like a villain in a movie. Ask Miss Rittenhouse if she went to Thailand to have her nose done. I was a kid. I didn't know that something like that was hurtful. I was desperate, so I did it. The whole classroom gasped, and the silence that followed was deafening. Miss Rittenhouse was in front of me so fast, I swear she teleported. I cried more because I realized I had said something horrible to my favorite teacher. When Miss Rittenhouse ran out of the classroom, Kim, Liam, and Gia came to me, laughing. Oops, sorry. They didn't even stick to their word. Some days I would hang out behind the gym, with the animals that were other classes' school projects. Or I'd sneak into the teacher's lounge. I ate lunch so often at the school guard's little shed that I became good friends with him. My best friend as a middle schooler was a 35-year-old man. At least, things were a little better after high school, and Nana didn't stop searching for my dad until she found him. I just came home one day crying from being rejected after I asked a boy to prom. I was a mess, but when I opened the door to the house, I saw a strange man sitting with my Nana, and I instantly knew who he was. Even though I had never seen him, I just felt that he was my dad. I ran to him and hugged him. He cried into me and said sorry over and over. "There's nothing for you to be sorry about, Dad. I'm just happy you're here." "There is, sweetheart. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have grown up without parents." What do you mean?" "When your mom told me she was going to have a baby, I broke up with her. I told her I never wanted to see her again." Suddenly, everything wasn't so peachy anymore. Dad came back to my life, but now he's telling me he's the reason why my life is like this. I screamed and cried and told him to never come back. But eventually, Nana convinced me to hear his side of the story, so I went to his house and listened to him. When I got there, I was floored by how rich he was. The house was made entirely of glass. There was a pool on the roof, and the maids and butlers treated me like royalty. Dad explained why he did what he did. When they were younger, his parents disapproved of Mom. She was a poor girl with no potential. She had no interests in having a career, and she had more boyfriends than the letters in the alphabet. And so, Dad, being from a high society family, did not align with Mom's lifestyle. Dad's family gave him a choice, either abandon Mom or be cut off by his entire family. He only did what he thought was best, and at the time, he was about to become a doctor. He chose his career, and it worked out for him. Now he's a successful doctor and the heir to his parents' fortune. Even though I had a rough life because he and Mom abandoned me, I don't blame him. If he did turn away from his family, what life would we all have? Mom would have run off anyway, and Dad would struggle to work and take care of me at the same time. At least now we're both back in each other's lives, and we made the most of it. I spent a lot of time with him, just talking and catching up. I showed him how well I was doing with my grades, and I told him stories about me and Nana. Dad showered me with gifts. He took me to places I only dreamed of going, like Paris and Rome and Tokyo. When I walked into school, people would stare at me, not because of the usual reasons, but because I was always wearing the newest, most expensive couture dresses. Thanks to Dad and his stylist, nobody picked on me anymore. Now they only want to ask me where I get my clothes. It was also thanks to him that I was able to go after my dream. I always wanted to be a designer, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without Dad's help. I couldn't have afforded getting a degree in fashion or met the greatest designers he's introduced me to. It would have been too much for my conscience to watch Nana sacrifice everything just so I could afford to buy my own sewing machine. If Dad hadn't come back in my life, I would have quit school after high school and worked at the local store. But now I'm a superstar. As a gift for my 18th birthday, he sent me to a fashion school in Paris. He bought me an apartment there, and as soon as I finished school, I was the talk of the town. My designs appeared in Fashion Week and the front pages of international magazines. I was such an overnight sensation that boys began fighting over me. But there was this guy I met on Tinder that really interested me. It was funny, too, because he was from my hometown. He had a great sense of humor, and it almost sounded like he knew me. And then I understood why when we met up. because not only was the guy a catfish who was way older than his photo, he was also my mom's current boyfriend. And guess what? In the middle of our date, my mom appeared out of nowhere. She begged me to forgive her, but how could I? She left me of her own accord. She wasn't facing a heavy decision like Dad was. She left because. She left just so she could live as if I wasn't her responsibility. She wanted to live a carefree life as if she was a teenager again, and I couldn't accept that, especially not after I discovered why she was there. Please, I just need enough to buy myself a ticket back home. I just want to go home. I've been stuck in Paris for years now. I wanted to come back and get you, but I was penniless. As much as I despised her, I still gave her money. It was stupid, but I wanted to believe her. And guess what? She never went home. She never used that money for a ticket. She used it to buy herself and her boyfriend a ticket to Ibiza. And they spent that money partying all week. I know because I found her Instagram, and she texted me a week later to ask for more money. I ignored her and her boyfriend, and when I didn't give them what they wanted, Mom became more forceful. She demanded that because she was my mother, she was entitled to part of my fortune. She even went on several newspapers and magazines and gave interviews, as if she knew a single thing about me. I told everyone that she was a liar, and I told everyone my story, and how she abandoned me. The negative press she thought would come from being exposed as an orphan didn't work the way she thought. Instead, the world hearing of my struggle and the bad things that happened to me only worked in my favor. And now, I wasn't only a great designer. I was also a great designer with a great story. She kept claiming that she was my mother, so I went on a talk show and introduced my Nana. I told her story. I made sure that everyone in the world knew that even though she was my grandmother, she was the only woman in my life who I would call my mother, because she was the one who raised me, not the one who was claiming to be. Ava still pops up in my life from time to time, but I just ignore her. All she wants is money and fame, and I was determined to never give her either of those things. Nana and I live in Dad's mansion. We're all happy, and now I can give to Nana the life that she deserves. She celebrated her 80th birthday last month in a yacht in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, with all her friends and a cake that towered over everyone. And Dad didn't need to spend a cent. I paid for everything.